back to another My Hero Academia anime vs manga video breaking down season 7 episode 19 titled I Am Here, sharing the same title as chapter 386, referencing All Might's iconic catchphrase. The episode begins showing the evac box going from UA to Shiketsu High had stopped moving. In the dark, all of the citizens are still watching the war via tablets and phones, with some losing faith in the heroes after seeing the heroes lose to All for One. The anime here adding in a new scene of Deku holding Shigaraki's wrists. At Task Force HQ, it's revealed by La Brava that the evac box was stopped from the inside. All for One's mole Tajima is then caught by a hero as he was sabotaging the evac box. Thanks to this, pieces of the ceiling begin to fall, and the former hero, Death Arms, swings into action, saving two civilians from debris. Death Arms, having seen Deku fight for them and remembering Deku from the incident with the sludge villain back in the beginning of My Hero Academia, and just like Deku had done back then, Death Arms in tears states that his body took action all on its own. Surprisingly, the anime doesn't adapt the last page from chapter 385, where it switches over to Shoto and Ida for the first time, giving us our first Stain cameo in the war. At Task Force HQ, an officer freaks out over Dabi's heat readings at Gunga, as it's revealed that ever since Dabi got knocked out by Shoto for the first time, Dabi has been building up heat, concentrating thermal energy within, and within the next 10 minutes, Dabi will annihilate himself, releasing all of that concentrated thermal energy, triggering a massive high pressure explosion that'll burn everything within 5 kilometers off the map. This absolutely frightens Tsukauchi as he figures out that Skeptic must have told Dabi about the evacuation boxes passing through near Gunga and the Kinki region. Unfortunately, Tsukauchi gets word that within the blast zone they still have an evac box that stopped moving, the same evac box the Todoroki family are in. Tsukauchi, not being able to catch a break, gets word that All for One has sped up and is estimated to soon be in range to use Gloop Warp on Shigaraki. So once the pair of demon lords are united, they'll be unstoppable. Shigaraki gets added into this scene with All for One. Tsukauchi, terrified, asks if there are any reinforcements, and the officer tells him that there are none fit to fight. Plus, no heroes could possibly make it in time anyways, leaving Tsukauchi with a doomed expression. Then, all of a sudden, All Might makes contact with Tsukauchi. Switching over to Shoto and Ida, Shoto tells the worrying Ida that he's fine despite the blowback from using phosphor. He states that All for One is going to reach Midoriya, but he is still on his feet and is going to answer the call to stop All for One from reaching Deku. Ida, knowing the thoughts of Dabi weighing heavily on Shoto, and Shoto responds telling him that he has to do whatever he can. Ida, thinking of the two brothers' fight, states that he can only imagine the feelings that drove Shoto to stand against Dabi, the suffering he's borne. Shoto, the kind soul who told him to never forget who he wants to become. Ida then wonders why all of this is just Shoto's emotional burden to bear. All Might is then able to reach out to the heroes thanks to Tsukauchi. All Might tells them that every moment counts and that they need to run over to Gunga, updating them on the current situation with Dabi and the evac box. He states that Endeavor is keeping an eye on Dabi, but his quirk can't do anything to stop the explosion. He motivates Ida, asking the speedster that he knows he can run, leaving the escort of Shoto up to the hero. All Might gives Shoto a pep talk, telling him that the body and mind are two halves of the same whole, and that Shoto knows that better than anyone, referencing Shoto's inner conflict with his quirk and relation to Endeavor. Shoto tries to tell All Might about All for One and Deku, but is cut off by All Might, saying that they still have a mighty ally waiting and to not worry, that battling on won't bring him victory if he carries doubts. But All Might has the utmost respect for youngsters full of doubt who nonetheless honor whatever it is that drives them. All Might tells Shoto to put a stop to Toya and to make everyone feel safe again so that Shoto can be his best self, inspiring the young hero. All Might ends their chat letting the heroes know that they were Gunga's only hope and that they can do it. Shoto questions all of this with Ida, but Ida equips his respirator mask onto Shoto and tells him that he can run. After all, his legs are meant to guide wayward children. Stain, monitoring the heroes, sees Ida's growth as he acknowledges Ida acting for the sake of others. Ida, at maximum speed, blasts off, destroying the side of buildings as he carries Shoto to Gunga. And shout out to all of the animators because this was absolutely beautiful. beautiful. When the anime switches over to All Might, the section showing Hawks holding Tokoyami and why All For One gets baited by All Might because of his lack of control over his emotions over being younger are removed in the episode. Back to All Might as the anime extends the scene, having him believing in the two young heroes. Tsukauchi yells at All Might for being crazy, and All Might, waiting with his briefcase beside his car Hercules, tells his friend that this is how it has to be. After all, this was always his fight. As All For One can be seen off in the distance, All Might asks if All For One remembers the endless warring that got them both there. Now All Might hears that Shigaraki's hatred is affecting All For One's original body, so he believes that All For One won't be able to ignore him as All For One sees All Might. Tsukauchi pleads with All Might to stop because All Might is quirkless. All Might thinks back to the day Deku asked if someone without a quirk could be a hero like him. Though the anime doesn't adapt, All Might envisions himself younger in a middle school uniform, quirkless, as now he is how Deku was back then, quirkless. All Might now proving that someone quirkless can be a hero as he smiles, facing All For One, stating "I am here," while his briefcase and car both begin transforming as All For One menacingly smiles, seeing his mortal enemy back in action. Switching over to the Todoroki family, we see that the heroes in the evac box had taken down All For One's spies, while the citizens all evacuated and headed to the surface. The anime here not adapting the two panels showing death arms and the students from the culture festival. The Todoroki family see the flames of Dabi, and we switch over to Endeavor, and the anime surprisingly doesn't adapt a major part of the Todoroki family lore, showing Geten and Mr. Compress in prison, and Geten talking about the Himura family, which just so happens to be the same family that Rei Todoroki is a part of. I won't go too much into it right now in hopes that this does get adapted in the next episode, but the anime also doesn't adapt the detail of Endeavor having just received word of Dabi being a ticking time bomb. Continuing on, Endeavor realizes that not only is the evac box in danger, but Pixie Bob's group is in danger as they are fighting back against Toga's doubles. His fight with All For One left him extremely fatigued, and he isn't sure how much longer he can keep luring Toya away. Dabi, in a delirious state, calls out to his father, telling him to watch him as Endeavor looks at him stunned, only being able to see Toya as a child. Toya hits Endeavor with a giant flame fist. Toya charges at his father, and Endeavor grabs Toya and tells his son to put out the flames and that he doesn't want to watch him die. Dabi then says, "Natsu, let's play," and Endeavor sees that Toya's mind is long gone. Endeavor questions how it's possible that Toya can still even hold himself together, since Toya doesn't have any resistance to his own flames and his fire is hot enough to burn Endeavor. Endeavor reaches for Dabi's chest, looking into his phosphor, and sees Toya's true quirk, as he recalls that a near-death experience can trigger a quirk awakening similar to what had happened to Bakugo during the last war. But on the other hand, and in this case with Toya, people can also summon absurd power in a crisis when it's do or die, something completely different to a quirk awakening. This power only manifesting as death draws near, and Endeavor finally sees that within Toya lies Rei's quirk. Endeavor, seeing his son having an ice side, thinks of his entire life and decisions that led to this very moment, and opens his arms to embrace his son, holding his son's hands, with the two being shown cleaned up and flames replacing their lost arms, as Endeavor fully accepting himself and Toya for who they are and what he had done, taking full responsibility for it all. He says he thought he needed to bear it all and live a life of atonement. However, Toya was watching him the whole time, while he wasn't there to watch him. Toya was someone Endeavor especially had to do right by. Endeavor recalls the dreams he has where his whole family is together except for him, and he hugs Toya and tells Toya that he won't let Toya meet his end alone, but he won't let anyone else get caught up in their tragedy. As Endeavor tries to take Toya into the sky before he explodes, ice covers Toya, keeping him from exploding, and Endeavor sees that Rei is also with them. Rei joining, carrying the guilt of what what happened to Toya with her as well, sharing that responsibility with Endeavor. Rewinding the clock a little, and we see that Rei hopped on top of a UA robot after seeing Dabi from the UA shelter and tells Natsu to look after Fuyumi. Rei tells the robot to take her to the epicenter, and the robot gives her a thumbs up, and in a reference to Terminator 2, just like the T-800 in the movie, in the present, the robot melts away from Dabi's heat, still holding up the thumbs up, though it is a little difficult to see in the anime. Endeavor, seeing Rei, realizes that she is trying to cool down Toya, and that for her to even be this close, she had coated herself in a layer of ice. Endeavor tells her to get away, but she refuses, and Toya calls her mom, and Rei, burning from her son's flames, apologizes to him. Toya then calls out to Natsu and Fuyumi, revealing that the two had came to confront their brother alongside their parents. They both ask Toya to stop, and the anime here not adapting Natsu remembering the night he ignored Toya and thinking only if he had been there for him, showing that Natsu also shared a level of responsibility in the creation of Dabi. Endeavor can no longer add his heat as Toya's body would explode, so Endeavor pleads with Toya on nobody else needing to die. Toya then laughs as finally his entire family is watching him. Toya looking at Endeavor, thinking how everyone is finally watching him, how if it was such a simple thing to do, then why didn't it happen sooner? The entire world watches them with some hoping and praying for the heroes to win. One of the kids from the remedial course arc claims that they will be fine because they have 5 wieners on their side. Him of course referencing Shoto and his medical capsules hanging off of his utility belt. Shoto and Ida blast by, with Shoto having formed a jet made out of ice around Ida, producing less drag, making the pair go faster as a result. The officer back at HQ reveals that Ida is moving at transonic speed, with Shoto using regenerating ice constructs to reduce drag and creating a layer of heated air to reduce friction. The buildup in heat and moving at transonic speed breaks Ida's respirator as Shoto forms phosphor. Ida's engines burst, leading to him stating that this is as far as he can escort Shoto. Shoto thanks Ida and fully unleashes his flash fire fist, phosphor. They crash at high speed, launching Shoto forward, and Shoto rolls and begins running towards his family. Ida says to Shoto that it's thanks to him Ida is becoming who he wants to be, so Shoto needs to get to his family and make it happen for himself. We then hear one of the letters Shoto wrote to his mother as he states, "Dear Mom, in hopes of keeping up with my classmates, I'm making an effort to speak up and chat with them daily. All that talking has led to some conflict, but sometimes butting heads with others has led to a better understanding of how they think and feel. My friends care about more than just themselves. They get mad and shed tears for the sake of others, and that's how I want to be too. It's not easy, but I'm trying." The Todoroki family all look as Shoto runs through Toya's flames. Toya stares at Shoto as he sees a younger version of Shoto coming at him with tears and thinks if only they had butted heads sooner, then none of this would have happened, as there are still arguments he wants to have and things he still wants to say to his family. Toya, on the verge of exploding, is then hit by Shoto's great glacial Eiger, finally stopping and putting an end to the crisis, saving his family and all of the citizens. Shoto, barely standing, acknowledges that while the whole family being there wasn't ideal, it was probably for the best, since his great glacial Eiger alone might not have been enough to stop this. As ever since their first round, Toya reached uncharted territory where Shoto couldn't even surpass, meaning that maybe Shoto was never actually the masterpiece Endeavor thought he was. Toya, freezing from within, says that everyone including him should all die. Endeavor crawls to Toya and apologizes for not going to Sokoto Peak the day they thought he died, and Toya, for the first time since he became Dabi, begins crying as he tells his family that he hates them. Endeavor cries and apologizes to the rest of his family for everything he's done to them, and the episode ends with Shoto collapsing from exhaustion. And if we go through the credits, there are added shots of Toya and Shoto. Now, this episode covered about 5.5 chapters, then being the rest of chapter 385, all of chapters 386, 387, 388, 389, and 390. Now, aside from the removal of Geten explaining the Himura family, Natsu having his guilt removed, and the episode not not being titled Shoto Todoroki Rising like how it should have been, since this was the climax to Shoto's story, the episode itself was perfect in every other way. The animation was out of this world, the voice acting, the emotions, the OST was all delivered beautifully that honestly made me tear up to finally see all of this in motion, and further backs up the fact that the Todoroki family are some of the best written characters in the series, which all of this of course has me excited for the next episode. Let me know your thoughts on the episode. Did they cook with the changes? Let me know everything in the comment section below. With that said, if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to Detroit smash that like button, and if you are new to the Todoroki channel, then be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on so that you don't miss any My Hero Academia Season 7 breakdowns. With that said, I'll see you all in the next one.